Hey YouTube, Alan back with another video, an impromptu one at that. This video is prompted in response to the latest SMS challenge. So if you don't know what the SMS challenge is, very briefly, it is roughly kind of a high score challenge on Twitter run by Ollie or 8-Bit Boy UK on both Twitter and the UK. This week it's Sonic 2. So we kind of got chatting and I started thinking about what are my favorite Sonic games? And I said, why not do a video on it? After all, I like Sonic. Got the t-shirt to prove it and all. And yeah, before we get into the top 10, which is kind of what the meat and potatoes of this particular video is going to be, a few honorable mentions. This one, not so much an honorable mention. It's fine, but I was quite disappointed. I love the artwork. I thought, wow, how rad and how cool in the 90s with the hang glider. But the hang glider in game, not so cool. It kind of ended far too many of my games. This was just a bit of a letdown for me. Anyway, I said honorable mentions. First honorable mention is Sonic 3D, I was going to say Blast, but it's Flicky's Island in Europe. Cool black box here. This was kind of like to tide, I guess, people over at the end of the kind of Mega Drive's life and into the 32-bit era. It's an isometric game, it's not 3D really. It has its kind of own foibles in terms of, having to collect all the Flickies, which limits the number of enemies, and, it kind of loses some of that sense of speed, but it's a decent game. I enjoyed it back in the day, but not quite enough to put into a top 10. And similarly, Sonic N, actually this is just a stand-in for Sonic Advance, because I don't own Sonic Advance, but it is a port of Sonic Advance to the N-Gage. Funny enough, I don't own an N-Gage. It was a really nice revisit of the classic Sonics. Come to think of it, if I had thought about it beforehand, I would have picked up Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo. That was also kind of another moving Sonic into the kind of like other non-Sega hardware and pretty decent adventure, classic 2D games. Anyway, there's some honorable mentions. Let's get on with the real top 10. And number 10, it's a spin-off. It's Sonic Spinball. Very divisive game. A lot of people don't like this. The physics are a bit weird. And perhaps it is nostalgia, speaking here, which could be for a lot of these picks. I really enjoy Sonic Spinball. I think it's a good game. Granted, I typically only play the first 2 levels and either then die or kind of get a bit bored. But, it's only 4 tables long, so that's kind of 50% of the game as it is. It kind of made sense as well, following the kind of pinball-y style mechanics in Casino Night Zone in Sonic 2. So, is it perfect? No. Is it a kind of an interesting idea? Yes, I think it is. And it's got its own vibe. It references the kind of cartoon stuff as well. So check it out, but definitely, don't expect your typical Sonic and your typical Sonic pinball physics. Next up is another divisive game, I suppose, and it's Sonic Lost World on the Wii U. Now, a lot of people don't like this. I actually think it's a really good game. It really reminds me of the concept for Sonic Extreme on the Saturn. If they actually were able to complete that, you kind of got that fisheye almost aspect to the levels. It also has a little bit of Mario Galaxy going along. Plenty of 2D sections as well. It is a case where it tries to do too many things, I suppose, and it has the wisps and stuff in there that they don't really fit that well, and it has its flaws. But compared to some of the stuff at the time, such as like Sonic Boom and whatnot, I thought this was excellent. And the DLC, especially the Zelda level, brilliant. So, underrated in my opinion. Next up is another spin-off, and it is Sonic AllStar Racing Transformed. This one I wasn't sure, because basically this is Mario Kart, or Sega Kart. You have plenty of other characters in there. And Wreck-It Ralph, like that famous Sega character. But these are actually, the entire series is enjoyable. It is a good Mario Kart equivalent. I've put in plenty of hours into this. I really like how the levels transform from lap to lap, and your vehicle's transformed, hence the name of the gimmick. It did enough to separate itself basically from Mario Kart. Would I say it's better than Mario Kart? No, not in my opinion, but it definitely is a good kart racer. Kind of, to be honest, this could just be called Sega All-Star Racing, so maybe it's a bit of a cheat putting it in here, but hey ho, it's my list. Now, next up, we're definitely going nostalgia. Sonic Chaos, or Sonic the Hedgehog Chaos. This was the second Sonic game that I managed to own when I was a kid. Skipped over Sonic 2. And it again, I love the artwork. It's very short. It's very easy. There aren't too many enemies on screen. It does try and match the original Mega Drive games a lot more than say Sonic 1 and 2 in the Master System did. And you can see that in the graphics, but also in the kind of the way the gameplay. It's a bit faster by not having, kind of goes for speed over platforming. But I like it. It's kind of like that short and sweet experience. You don't necessarily need every Sonic game to be big, major adventures. Sometimes a 20-30 minute game is fine. And plus you can play as Tails for the first time, which was a nice bonus. It's definitely, an acquired taste, I suppose. And if you probably didn't grow up with it, you may not enjoy it as much as I do. But yeah, for me, it's in my, what was it, top six? Six? I've lost count now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That must have been 7, I think. Oh, now 6 is a biggie. Actually, is it 6? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so this is 6. It is Sonic Generations. This is the PlayStation 3 Collector's Edition version. I'm not going to hold this up the whole time because it's a big old box. Basically this was an anniversary style. Let's celebrate 20 years of Sonic and kind of combine the 2D and the 3D gameplay styles. Why I think this worked was, one, obviously there was a big nostalgia hit. You got to revisit the kind of different eras of Sonic, but also it addressed some of the major flaws with the 3D Sonic formula. 3D Sonic works in you get blast through the levels, but to pad out the game, they always have to add in something else, like Werehog sections or shooting sections or whatever, and they tend to drag the game down. But in this case, you can almost view the 2D sections, the classic kind of style Sonic, as being the padding out stuff. And that 2D gameplay works a lot better as an expansion on the general kind of Sonic formula, because it ties back to the classic Sonic formula. So that's why I think that works really well. And of course, it is just a nostalgia overload. So, top game. Number 6. Number 5 then is, again, I guess nostalgia overload here, but with a modern twist. It is Sonic Mania Plus, or actually, for me it was more Sonic Mania. I haven't played all that much Plus. Christian Whitehead and Headcanon and whoever else was involved in this, they just knocked it out of the park. This is the real Sonic 4. Yes, there's a Sonic 4, terrible game. This is the real Sonic 4. It follows on from Sonic and Knuckles. It has that, real classic kind of momentum-based gameplay that, looks amazing. Some great music from T-Lopes. Good length, not too long, not too short, that type of thing. And of course, you do get a lot of the remixing of the classic stages too. I would love to see them do a proper follow-up of this. More new stages. Don't lean into the nostalgia quite so much. What can they, if they were to go to town on a Sonic Mania 2, where is it? Why haven't they done a Sonic Mania 2? Come on. Yeah, great game. And definitely, if you want to kind of get into Sonic today, see what it can be about, this is actually a great place to start. So now we're entering the top 4, is it? 1, 2, 3. I don't know why I keep losing count of where I am. I think it's because I've got a bit of a cheat coming up. So, number 4, the original Sonic the Hedgehog on the Mega Drive. What is there to say about this? The opening level, Green Hill Zone, the opening music, iconic. Before you get to that, the title screen, the opening music, the title screen, the attitude, great graphics, great sound. A lot of people kind of have problems with some of the levels. They, especially after Green Hill Zone, they feel kind of Marble kind of slows down the pace and all that sort of stuff. I actually love Marble Zone. It's really when it gets to Labyrinth Zone that I feel that there's a bit of a pacing problem, and it picks back up more, with Starlight and Scrap Brain Zone. It has a foibles there in terms of 3 acts versus 2 acts, and it can be a bit drawn out. Some of the bosses could be improved, I suppose, but that's really nitpicking. It is a really, really good classic game. There's a reason why Sega were able to get Sonic to stick as a mascot. It wasn't just because they advertised and pushed and they had attitude and all that sort of stuff. They could have done it with other characters. This is actually a really good game, and it's hit the franchise up in a great way. And yeah, I love this kind of weird European artwork too. It's totally different. I think they got a different artwork in the US, and certainly in Japan it was different. But I don't know why. It's just always stuck out to me. In fact, the Sonic artwork in the 16-bit era was all over the place. We're keeping 16-bit now for number 3, and this is what I meant by a cheat. It's Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I think it's been codified by Sonic Origins that this is really meant to be one game. And of course they brought out the, what do they call this? The lock-on technology, to combine it back into one. Together, they make a great adventure. Definitely the biggest kind of 16-bit adventure. On their own, they have a bit of weakness in terms of kind of the level flows, and it just doesn't feel quite as good. They're both good games. I got Sonic and Knuckles first, believe it or not, and then got Sonic 3, so I kind of played them backwards. It also meant I didn't have the save feature. But when you put them together, and not to mention, of course, Knuckles and Sonic 2, another little bonus, and a lock-on Sonic 1 bonus stages, yeah, it just kind of took everything that we had seen in Sonic before and just ramped it up. Bigger levels, more content, great graphics, great sound. Not as good as, to be honest, the sound of 1 and 2. And of course, there's the whole Sonic 3 music controversy with Michael Jackson. But Ice Cap's on rocks. Let's just leave it at that. So we're up to the final 2. And in number 2, it is Sonic 2. This just took everything from Sonic 1 and ran with it. It addressed most of the problems. We had 2 stages per zone, so you had more variety for the kind of similar amount of content. Graphics were better, sound was just as good, if not better. Chemical Plant Zone is still just an awesome track. It kind of toned down some of the slow pacing areas, like there is still water components, but they make up smaller sections of the levels. There is more areas where you can kind of build up your speed, and then you have the breakups for the platforming. I think there's a better variety in bosses. Of course, you have Tails, so you got that kind of co-op aspect. More interesting bonus stage. Like it just is a better game all around. I always loved playing this back in the day. Still love playing it today, and that's why I have it so high up. Even more so than Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I think Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the better combined adventure, but I think this is something I will return to more frequently because I can just kind of blast through it a bit quicker and kind of feel fulfilled. And now, top spot. Maybe this is nostalgia speaking again. Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Master System. Of course, this is where it started for me, really. It's a different game to the Sonic 1 on the Mega Drive. Some of the zones, there's similar zones, Scrap Brain, Green Hill, but they're different layouts. A lot of new zones, totally new music, excellent music by Yuzo Koshiro. This was developed by Ancient, his company. It is a bit more platformy. There is speed sections, but it's more platformy. I think it just nails it. I think it actually just plays a lot better consistently. So Labyrinth is still a little weak, but the rest is just brilliant. I just constantly go back to it. We had a Master System challenge on this not that long ago. Another great excuse to go back to it. I play this like every single year, and yeah, that's why it just has to be number 1 for me. Yes, perhaps it is nostalgia, but it is up there in the 2D gameplay stakes. And I really encourage anyone to check it out if they haven't. It is a lot more available than it used to be. And even if you want to collect the real thing, it's pretty common unless you're looking for the stupid UPC sticker on the US release, which is just a European release with a sticker over the barcode. Pick up a cheap European copy. So there we go. That's my top 10 Sonic games with a few honorable mentions. The big one I left out was Sonic CD, and of course compilations. I should have said, I'm not going to include compilations. Sonic CD is a game that I want to like. I played it on the PC back in the day. I have it in the Sonic Gems collection, but it just doesn't. I just don't get it. I will give it another try at some point, and I think completed it. Like I didn't complete it back in the PC. I got up to like Metal Sonic or Silver Sonic or whatever he was called in that one. I think it's Metal Sonic, but it just didn't click. I'm hoping the next time around it will click with me. The second time I played it, actually, no, I got up to like the level where you bounce all over the place, like wacky workbench or something like that, and it just was like too much. I just wanted to like it so much because of the intro and the sound and stuff, but no, and it's Sonic. So maybe someday that might reappear if I give it a proper go. But today, it just doesn't. So, and of course, and there's lots of 3D stuff that just hasn't really, done it for me. Like Sonic Adventure 2, people love that. I don't think it's that great. Sonic Adventure 1, I have it on my Dreamcast, and I haven't really gotten into it that much. I really should, but yeah. So someday this might change dramatically. You know, maybe I'll take off my nostalgia goggles too, and it might be very different. But anyway, that's my Sonic Top 10 and a few other rambling Sonic chats. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.